Okay, my audience. So thank you guys for taking time out of your busy work schedule to come and listen to me present to you my persuasive speech. Just want to begin with a simple fact from the FAS website. Did you know that last year, President Obama set aside over $150 million in funding to assist in hiring new school resource officers, armed guards, and other safety-oriented school employees? We also look at our schools now compared to 10, 15 years ago when most of us went to school, or further than that. Whenever you approach a school now, you have locked doors, you have cameras outside the schools, inside the schools. You see all of the employees that are in the schools, they all have name badges telling you that they belong there. Those are all in place for the safety of our children, plus the staff and the teachers inside the schools. So the question I would pose to you is, would you feel more comfortable knowing that your child is being protected while they're in school and away from you? I think most of us would agree and say, yes, we would. So my question also, in the same realm of that, would be, what would you be willing to do to keep your child safe? Would you be willing to arm your schools? So we hear so many arguments against arming our schools. So let's take a look at those first. We hear arguments that having guns in schools would promote more violence instead of reducing violence. Did you know that most massive school shootings have occurred inside schools that did not have armed officers on campus? Having some type of visible sign outside the school before someone even enters, letting them know that there's possibly someone inside the school armed, is going to reduce the possibility of some type of gun violence inside the school. Those could be a marked police car outside the school. Could actually be signs posted at the front door stating that the school is armed. And then you also have just the fact of having officers visibly walking around the school inside and out. So then I ask, would you think less of your child's teacher if you knew that he or she was carrying a firearm while on campus? The Huffington Post quoted Wayne Blayton, who is the executive director of the Florida School Board Association, stating that teachers are there to be role models for our students. Role models don't need to be carrying guns on campus. So, do you believe that a teacher wanting to protect his or her students by carrying a firearm is not being a role model? So does that mean just the simple act of carrying a firearm does not make you a role model? I personally have a lot of respect for anyone that would be willing to do that and who would protect their students, our children, against a possible threat that would come into their schools and threaten their lives. There would also be many issues that would need to be addressed before this could actually come to fruition. But I believe it is definitely something worth looking at. Issues to be addressed could possibly be, who would you have carry the firearms? How many teachers or staff members within the school would you have carry? How would the weapons be secured during the day? So to ensure that no accidents happen either between teachers or students. And then also, of course, the training issue. How would the teachers be trained? Would there be a specific set of training that would have to happen for these teachers? So you look sometimes, of course, best scenario would be we could have school resource officers in every school. That would be perfect. However, we see that some school systems, police departments, and cities are unable to fund school resource officers inside every school. Like I said, of course, it would be ideal to have trained law enforcement inside schools. However, we look at Green Valley School District in Idaho. It's a very rural school system. They have less than 300 students, and it takes at least 45 minutes for an officer to reach their schools. So sadly, with this school district here, they're unable to fund the school resource officers. Just like here in Bristol, Virginia, we were unable to afford school resource officers in all of our schools. However, we luckily were able to get a grant, which was able to help us put 3 school resource officers, which covers now all of our city schools. So we have discussed the reasons some people claim to be good arguments against having firearms in schools, but are they really good arguments? So in conclusion, we see that 15 years ago, it was actually unheard of to have law enforcement inside schools. The schools and police departments encountered opposition when this first began happening across the nation. Now we see that the majority of the country is totally in favor of having school resource officers inside the schools to protect our children. So I believe that in the future, we will see the idea of armed teachers and staff inside these schools also transition from being more accepted, just like we did law enforcement. We all want our children to be safe, and this is one way to accomplish this, and I believe it should be further explored. Thank you. And they all stayed. Surprisingly, they all stayed.